One of our channel members, Ran Raphael, asked a really important question on one of our recent videos. They asked about using positive reinforcement while using your dog's meals and treats and all of the feeding that goes on, and how to avoid actually overfeeding their puppy in training. In this video, Instructor Steve is in the kitchen and he's cooking up some tips on how you can effectively incorporate high-value treats and your dog's regular meals into their puppy training sessions without overfeeding them. I'm Ken Steep.
I'm Steve Walsh.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs.
If you're training a puppy, we've talked to you a lot about using food to help build success early. It's a great currency that a lot of puppies thrive on. It allows us to get great success really quickly. But the thought may have crossed your mind that if I'm feeding my dog and training my dog several times a day and taking them into places that are a little bit more distracting and using those really high value treats, how do I avoid overfeeding them? And you know what? You might be overfeeding them. Well, I got a few things set up here that I'm gonna talk to you about how we can not only train our puppies using some food, but how to maintain a good, healthy weight on your puppy. Now, most puppies eat 3 meals a day, so let's take those 3 meals and let's add them all up. And let's really look at how much food our puppies are getting in a day. First things first, 3 meals worth of kibble in the bowl. Now, of course, we're gonna be doing some training, so I need some of our training treats. Let's put those on top. Now, we also have to add in those treats because they're cute when we walk in and they give us that little puppy face. So let's get some of those, some of these because they're really good. And then, of course, we have to talk about our Kongs. Let's put those in there as well. And pretty darn quickly, we got a whole lot of food. So how do we use all this food to not only train our dogs, but to keep that healthy weight and avoid overfeeding? Well, let's take the food that we're gonna feed our dogs anyway, and let's split it up into those 3 meals and see what that looks like. Now, I've got my 3 meals set out, but I do want to spend some time training my dog. So instead of adding more treats or adding more food to that, I'm actually going to take some of this food to train my dog. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to take some from each of those meals because I train my dog several times through the day, which means I can take some of that food from each of those bowls. Now, of course, these meals are getting a little smaller, but overall, my dog is still getting the same amount of food, the same amount of nutrition. We're not in a situation where we're overfeeding our dogs. So far, I've only talked about training with your dog's regular food, but there are environments where you're gonna need something a little bit more powerful, a little bit higher value to keep your dog's focus. So let's take some of those high value treats and now add those into the equation. So again, this is my training pile. I'm gonna add those higher value treats in here. Now, I'm still in a situation where I'm giving my dog extra food. So I'm gonna take away a little bit from each of the meals and set these off to the side. That way, I can use those higher value treats to train my dog in that more distracting environment without adding more calories into their intake. The last thing you can't overlook are those Kongs or those chews that we give our dogs to pacify themselves when they're hanging out in the crate. It's important to make sure you take those into account to ensure that you're not overfeeding your puppy. One of the biggest mistakes you might be making is giving your puppy way too big a treat every time they do something you like. Let's take a look at what might be an appropriate size treat for your puppy. So what's an appropriate size treat for most puppies? Literally the size of a pencil eraser. And for some of our smaller breed dogs, let's split that in half. Literally half of a pencil eraser. Just enough to get your point across to the dog, to build some value for that. As I work my training, if I'm giving these little teeny tidbits, my dog's gonna learn and they're not gonna be overfed. We know that puppies have short attention spans and small bellies. If you're giving treats this big, your dog's gonna get filled up, they're gonna be overfed. So it's important you break all these things into little teeny tiny pieces and keep the values small and rewarding and interesting. Now, when it comes to feeding all these higher value treats, it's important that you keep an eye out for any ill effects that it may have on your dog because some things just don't agree with your puppy. Have a look at your dog's stool. No, not that stool. Have a look at your dog's poop, and if you see any changes, you might want to think about slowing down on some of the higher value treats, some of the higher protein treats in terms of what's happening with them. If you see any big changes in their stool, maybe consult your vet and see if there's something that might not be agreeing with them. The Ontario Veterinary College recommends that maximum of 10% of your dog's daily intake come from treats. So that's why it's so important that you don't give your dog all the food and those treats on top of it. We're gonna take away some of that food, we're gonna substitute in some of these higher value treats, and that's what's gonna create that healthy balance of regular food and higher value treats without overfeeding. Treat balls and treat puzzles are another great thing to use with your puppy. But instead of loading those up with those high value treats, take your dog's regular kibble, put them in there. It's a great way for them to burn off a little steam and use their brains and work for that food. Using food in the early stages of your puppy training is a great way to get success, but it's important that you and your puppy don't become dependent on it. Okay. Click that card right there if you want to avoid making the biggest mistake that most people make when treat training their puppy. If you're looking for a more structured program for you and your puppy, check out our online Puppy Essentials program where you can get personalized feedback from our professional instructors. Click the link in the description below. On that note, I'm Steve. This is Jet. Happy training.